Do it off air. Okay. Hey guys, welcome. Guest, and he's a former member of the Unshackled, and mi primito, my cousin, Emilio Garcia. Hola, Emilio Garcia, ¿cómo estás?
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey, we're doing this live stream only in Spanish.
Are we now?
Sí.
You know, the left hates you enough already. Do you want the right to start hating you now?
The left hate me because they're idiots and they don't understand how stupid they are. That's okay. I still love them. I pray for them every day. Anyway. It's okay. Sorry?
It's lovely to be here.
Yes, of course it is. You're with me. We cousins. We stick together. Okay, so you've just come back from a lovely break. You're back in Australia, and a lot of new ventures are going on. You have you've recently exited from the very fantastic the Unshackled, and now you've started up something of your own. So do you want to talk about why you left the Unshackled and why you're now starting up this fabulous company, the Radical Center?
Yeah, sure. So I'll touch briefly on why I left the Unshackled. I entered the Unshackled as I've always been a political centrist. They accepted me with wide open arms. They said, we don't really care. We think we agree with you on like 90% of the issues. So come aboard. I actually did pretty well in the Unshackled. I grew to be like, you know, in the upper tier of it, and I had a stake and everything like that. But ultimately, I just didn't think that we were politically, ideologically aligned. The Unshackled is primarily a right-wing site, and I'm not right-wing. And so it just really didn't make sense to be involved in something in which the people would go and see opinions of mine that they weren't really going to the Unshackled to see. So it was just better for me to start something that was a little bit more aligned to what I do. So I left the Unshackled very amicably, still there to all of the Unshackled guys. I still contribute to one of the Unshackled's podcasts, which is Pop and Lock. So we're very content, all of us. But now I've started the Radical Center. And the Radical Center is a centrist outlet. And what I have is I have 5 references on the left and 5 references on the right. And their primary job, really the main thing that they have to do, they can write op-eds and they can be on the podcast, which will launch on Thursday, February. I don't know why I said Thursday.
I'm excited.
Yes, as am I. Their primary job is to be available to talk to me about different things. So something big happens, let's say like this whole Gillette ad thing or the recent MAGA kid saga. I really want to have both sides available to me just to make sure that I get a fair view. And yeah, I love my lefties and I like my right-wingers, and so far so good.
Well, can I just elaborate a little bit on what you've said? You're not a lefty, though.
No.
You're a centrist. So when you say I don't identify as right wing, that means that you take things from the left, you take things from the right. I do that too, but I'm not a left winger by any means.
You're primarily right wing. So that's the difference. So when I say that I'm political centrist, that doesn't mean
I'm a conservative. Just to clarify.
Right. Well, you're a conservative, and you would identify with most things on the right. I'm assuming that when it comes to security, when it comes to welfare, when it comes to budget, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to anything really, it would seem that you're more on the right wing side.
Yes, I do. I happen to lean that way. It's just happened that way. Yeah, for sure.
Which is absolutely okay. That's not primarily what I'm about. And you know, that's every once in a while. You know, I noticed now a lot of the writing that I was doing for the Unshackled. Proud as I am of the work that I did with them and everything, you know, I was clearly I don't know if I was pandering, but I was playing to an audience, and so I was writing far more right wing than actually I think that I am, just because. I get that dopamine hit every time that I would release an article, you know, saying how stupid Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez is, and everyone would praise me. She is very stupid. She's a highly stupid person. But like, why am I spending all my time writing about it? I don't really care that much. So I guess that's really why I've started my own thing, and I still love the Unshackled, and they have so much to bring.
Oh, of course.
and they managed to like blow up right after I left. So clearly, it was a good thing for everyone. Right now, I think they're somewhere at about 50,000 hits a day. So clearly not having that counterweight, just kind of driving them towards the center, really just let them take off, and I'm thrilled for them.
Oh, absolutely. Me too. Well, you and I have both been members of the Unshackled, and now you and I are both former members from the Unshackled, and I'm actually sitting across from the person who let me go from the Unshackled. But it was fine. I was very good about it.
I thought we were never going to talk about that again. That was upon your request. Like, I just really don't want to discuss this ever. Like, yeah,
yeah, but
how I maybe had to break the news. But yeah, I'm glad that you've overcome that.
Oh, absolutely.
You're doing pretty well on your own.
I am doing well on my own. Yeah, thank you very much for acknowledging.
People are talking a lot about you on the internet. A lot of four-letter words. Some that start with a P. Others that start with a C.
I'm many four-letter words.
Yeah. I see. But fuck them.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. I'm a happy person, and I just pray for the haters because I want them to be happy and I want them to do well. I don't want anything bad to happen to them, despite the fact that they only want bad things to happen to me. But that's okay. I was going to ask you, despite being a centrist, do you acknowledge, and I'm not trying to push you one way or another, but I do think, despite me being a little bit despite the fact that I lean right more than I do left, it is a fact to me. It's not even an observation. It's a fact to me that one side is worse than the other in terms of cognitive dissonance, in terms of extremism. Would you agree with that? I'm not saying that trust me, the right-wing lunatics have affected me, not affected me personally, but have tried to affect me personally and have gone out of the way to make me miserable. I'm talking about the extreme right, not the left. But can you acknowledge that one side is perhaps a little bit more extreme than the other, or a little bit more,
One side is acting.
You know what I'm asking.
Yeah, one side is currently acting far worse, definitely. I mean, I think that you would have to have cognitive dissonance or to be intellectually dishonest to not notice it. I don't think that inherently the far left is much worse than the far right. I think the far left is just so much more
louder,
energized at the moment. Basically, you have a full media machine that is constantly feeding them this narrative. People that are already kind of scratching the extremes, that there is this impending right-wing doom about to, take over the world and, erase trans people and, get rid of their, soy lattes and shit like that. They're just freaking out and they're acting egregiously. And I think what helps them to a degree is also the extreme parts of their ideology aren't being called out by the mainstream. So, for example, when you have the extreme right doing things, you immediately have the right-wing mainstream apparatus completely turn against them. Immediately. That happened during the Tiki Torch march. That happened as soon as this guy recently said that he thought the word white supremacy wasn't offensive. Every single conservative turned to say, no, that's really messed up. On the left, what you have is they're so desperate to get back into power that Eva can dismember a fucking person in the middle of Fifth Avenue screaming some insane really anti-white racist things, and CNN will say, oh well, they were anti-racist protesters. They stabbed a horse in the neck. So much for PETA. But and so that's why I think that if there isn't a movement, if the mainstream of the ideology isn't condemning the extreme, well then the extreme is more emboldened. So to answer your question, I don't think that the extreme left is worse than the extreme right. I don't think that. I think that right now, because of the history, they're the ones that are acting worse currently.
Fair enough. There is also more of them.
Yes, absolutely.
I think, I'm not saying, as I just said, I want anyone watching, leftist or right-winger or centrist, anyone watching, I think the far right is pretty sick in the head, because they have tried, as I said, to affect me, and I just keep on smiling. But yeah, whereas the lefties don't bother me. Like, I'm just like, that's okay. They don't bother me. They're just, why? Because they're just keyboard warriors, and they're just, they're just lost little souls that need a little bit of guidance. They need a yellow brick road, and I'm happy to continue to pray for them until they get it. Whereas the extreme ones on the right seem to want to actually do proper damage. So that's the difference, and I can acknowledge that. Even I can say that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason that there's more people on the extreme left than the extreme right is because I think that people feel more comfortable moving to the more extreme ends of the left than the extreme ends of the right. I mean, there are very few people who are like, yeah, I kind of, this Hitler guy, maybe he broke a few eggs, but the omelet, that was delicious. Whereas, all these people saying like, well, Che Guevara, yeah, maybe he may have executed, 2 or 2,000 people, but, he was a really good guy because equality and because healthcare and whatever. And so obviously, Che Guevara wasn't as bad as Hitler, but only because Cuba's poor. But the matter is that, it's a lot easier for you to enter the extreme left and still be like accepted by society than to be in the extreme right and be accepted.
Oh, absolutely. You and I would be very easily accepted if we dropped our thoughts and opinions, our political views, and we completely aligned with the left. They would probably easily take us in because we're both Latin, we're both stereotypes of some sort, and that'd fit their physical agenda. They'd be like, oh, look, she's physically this and physically that, and let's accept her, or he's physically this and physically that. But ideologically, we would have to meet with what their cookie cutter is, or if we become apostates, that's just the worst. Because even like I've had Antifa members. Shane Hunter came on. That live stream was disgusting. The audio, I couldn't hear anything, and he bored me anyway. But and then I had another guy who was supposed to come on ages ago, Jeremiah. But these are former lefties who still to some degree hold leftist views. I've spoken to them. I've gotten close to them, and there's still a part of them that has their foot over that line. It's really funny, and they think they're right, and they can't get out of that leftist agenda. So even though they've realized, oh, Antifa is bad, they're there. They're not all the way there. Like I've had issues with even those people on a personal level. Not like I don't hate them. It's fine, but their behavior towards me has been surprising.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, being on the left isn't inherently bad, of course. But
I wasn't saying that. Yeah.
No, right. I mean, I suppose if you were already even in any way associated to Antifa, your views must be pretty extreme, because Antifa as a movement, that just the simple categorization they have of fascists, which seems so factual and so broad. If would at any point really identified with that and really believed, oh, this person, I don't know. So let's give a simple example of what they would consider to be fascism, which is to say that there are physical differences between men and women.
Sure.
All right, that seems rather harmless, but they would think that that's fascistic. And so if you were at any point that far to the left that you thought that these people had something valuable to say, or that their cause was worth violence, or worth committing violence, then yeah, I mean, there's probably something fucked up in your head.
You just swore.
Is that not okay on this?
I just didn't expect it. You don't seem like the type that does a lot.
Oh well, fucking good. What can I say? All right.
No, it's fine. I don't mind. Okay, so I was gonna say, I don't think usually in terms of racial groupings, but I wanted to ask you, because we're both Latin, and even though I don't think in the form of you know, all Asians there, all white people there, all black people there. Even though I think ideological thought is much more valuable, don't you think that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez puts a bad name on us Latinos?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I'm kind of ashamed of her.
I think she gives a really bad name to millennials.
To Democrats as well.
The Democrats, definitely. A new poll showed that 73% of registered Democrats would vote for Alexandra Ocasio, would consider voting for her. Were she running, were she old enough to run, and 17% of them said they absolutely would vote for her.
Oh, that's scary.
It is scary, but you know, I think the millennials are really the ones taking the hit, because I would argue they leaked this audio of her where she's like, she's talking at one of those, like, I don't know, LGBTQ, empowerment galas, and where she's on stage, and I don't know, she's talking about some, climate justice bullshit, and
yeah.
Did you hear about this?
I think I know what you're about to. Keep going. So for those who don't know, keep going.
Millennial basic bitch tone in the world. She's like, so in 12 years, like, the world is gonna be over, and you're gonna pay for it. It's like, you're a politician. You're like the toast of the Democratic Party. Enunciate, bitch.
Yeah, she does. She has this high-pitched voice, and yeah, in 12 years we're all gonna be dead.
What? Like, is that a question or a statement? But yeah, I think the millennials are the ones taking the hit, honestly. But I honestly, what's really curious is that Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez really isn't that significant a figure yet.
But they're elevating her, and she's the toast of Hollywood, except she's not the toast of Hollywood. She's the toast of Democrat New York, and they're elevating her to this superstar status, I guess, because she's pretty and she's a minority. Exactly what the leftists love to do. They love to put people up on a pedestal who are a stereotype.
Right. And no, but I mean, also the amount
identity politics.
Yes, it's 100% identity politics. But the amount of pressure that they put on her versus any person who's not an absolute leftist is unbelievable. This woman can get away with some shit. You know what I mean? She has gotten away with so much. And no one really pressures her on it. Like Jake Tapper kind of did once, but not really.
Oh, Candace Owens pressured her to a debate. Candace Owens is I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. She's Ben Shapiro. She had no intention. She manages to sound stupid with interviewers who are really friendly to her. Imagine what a Ben Shapiro would do to her. Can you imagine something like that? Or Michael?
Oh, should be
Gavin McGinnis would be something to watch.
The fetal position. She'd be in a fetal position under her chair. Yeah. And do you know what? I haven't sort of scoured the leftist pages and the leftist opinions. So I don't know what like Australians think of her. But if anyone in Australia is likely to say that she's intelligent, I would laugh in their face and say, what the hell are you talking about? I really want to know if anyone out there actually thinks she's intelligent, because she's not.
It's very hip to say that she's intelligent. It's kind of like
she's pretty, not intelligent.
This guy, it's something that a lot of people on the right give me heat for, is for saying that the people from the Young Turks, they're actually, I don't agree with a lot of what they say. I don't agree with a lot of their worldview. But as far as leftist media goes, they're a lot more reasonable and factual than other people. What's this guy's name? The guy that debated Ben Shapiro from the Young Turks. His name is
Cenk Uygur.
Yes, that guy. He's actually not a stupid guy. He's
not stupid, but he does pander to leftism.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, a lot of people pander. But anyway, that guy, he's always talking about, oh, she's so brilliant. Oh, I love AOC so much. Oh, she's so, and people are like, everyone say she's so impressive. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, she's impressive. I'm very frequently impressed by her, not for her intelligence, but yeah, I'm always very, very much impressed by what she has to say. But I mean, the reason that she's being held up is really because they're just trying to make her into a figurehead. So for example,
exactly, completely agree.
Yeah, and so, but for example, this whole thing about her saying that she's like this poor Latina girl from the Bronx who had nothing and this and that. Like, we know that that isn't true now. We know that, okay, so this is a girl. She has 2 degrees. She doesn't have any debt. Her parents paid through it. She apparently moved when she was like 6 years old and then moved to a really, really wealthy part of New York, like a very, very wealthy part. Average household per capita, whatever, is $2 million. Like, that's the average household wealth of where she grew up. Then she was an activist and a bartender before she went to Congress, which, I mean, what privilege. And then she got there, you know, when she said, oh, you know, I can't afford Washington, D.C. for, you know, 3 months. And then she did her financial Yeah. And it turns out she has at least $50,000 in savings and at least like $5,000 in a investment account, which is like, you mean that you managed to get 2 degrees and only work as a bartender and you have almost $100,000? And well, not almost $100,000, but I mean, it could be anywhere between $75,000 and $45,000 in your name. And you're telling me that you're this poor little broke girl from, you know, Latina broke girl from the Bronx? Like, no.
That's called being a liar, or in Spanish, mentirosa.
Mentirosa. But she's also incredibly privileged. I mean, this is clearly a person who had all of the upper middle class privileges, if not just upper class privileges, that many people don't manage. And there she is talking about, like, oh, you know, socialism because this and that. Like, well, it's really easy to live as a socialist when your parents clearly just gave you $50,000. You didn't save $50,000 by working at a fucking bar. Come on.
And in every interview, she says the same thing. I just think we're in a position. I just think it's immoral to be in a position in the United States to have any homeless. I just think that's immoral. And then all the audience goes, yeah. And then, like, yeah, it's like, oh, you're so moral because, you know, you think no one should be poor. So then give them your money, bitch.
Yeah. Is anyone coming on in 5 minutes?
Sorry?
Is someone coming onto this call?
No.
Oh, okay. Are you sure?
Wow, you're paranoid. I promised you that wouldn't happen. There will be no Neil Erickson. There is no Neil Erickson.
I just got a notification that said another conversation in 5 minutes. But
really? I didn't see that.
All right. Well, I trust you.
I promised you that wouldn't happen.
All right.
Neil Erickson is a scumbag.
Oh, well, you know. What's your next topic?
Hurry up. Respond to my comment. So I didn't mean to make this about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I just thought it was interesting. Socialism is her whole thing. I did a live stream with Baden, actually. Baden and I spoke about her for a little while, but this was at the beginning where her fame hadn't hit. And now her fame has hit, and every single interview she's an idiot. Every single interview she says, I think, and every single interview she gets applauded for saying it's immoral to live in a society where there's poverty.
She said it's immoral if there are billionaires. Like, she literally said,
well, if they've earned their money.
Yeah. Well, I think this is what I was talking. Who was I talking? I don't remember who I was saying this to, but it's like the rich kids of socialism are actually the really dangerous ones. And if you go back and you see like the people who really pushed for socialism and communism, it actually tends to be people with like really well-off families that grew up really rich. I mean, just an example, the best example is Che Guevara, whose family was one of the most powerful families in Argentina. And so I think that when you grow up in a space where everything is provided to you, that there's just this, you know, invisible something above you that just continues to provide, and it provides well, which is fine. I mean, it's fantastic to live, to grow up in an upper class family where you're, you know, well provided for. But the issue, the insidious effect that can have is for you to believe that there is something superior, some superior structure that can just provide for you forever and keep you in perfect comfort without you having to do much. And I think that I mean, this girl, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I don't think that she finds it so unreasonable that the government would provide for her, because she's clearly, I mean, she hasn't earned a single, I mean, right now, the first honest living she's going to make is
as a senator or whatever it is she is.
Or in the House of Representatives, which is depressing. That's the first like real paycheck she'll ever get, like not serving, you know, shots of tequila or something. But I understand why that mentality would exist, because I mean, if you always have someone providing for you and you don't really have to work hard for it, then yeah, sure. Like why not have the government provide everything for me?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just she's living in a fantasy land. Well, we can get off Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. I just thought that would be an interesting topic of conversation. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was, and we'll try to keep it under 45 minutes, so we're almost half an hour in, with just the way Australia is going, and the subject of race has become quite prominent in the last couple of months. What do you think? Because as an original American, race is much more taboo discussion in the States, I find, with all the things that I've been watching over the years. For the longest time, I was always watching movies and documentaries and TV shows about how Black people were segregated from white people, and I was so outraged by it. It really pissed me off. But now I feel like the conversation it should be the other way, because white people are being targeted now by leftists, and there's this sort of self-hatred going on. Oh, we should hate ourselves because, you know, we are white and what we did to the Black people in the past, all that kind of stuff. And I don't like that. I feel like I've remained consistent in my hatred of racism, but I don't feel like people who are white see it that way, because they don't believe in reverse racism. What are your thoughts? I just think it'd be interesting to get an American perspective. Yeah.
So what, you want my perspective on
everything I just stated?
You just said so much. I mean, if it's about...
Okay, so the double standard that exists. So, like, it seems to be okay to say horrible things about white people. Granted, the white people don't have the same history the Blacks have, the African Americans or Africans have. So, what is your view on that, if you want to unpack that?
Sure. I mean, it's... So when it comes to racism, it depends on what definition you go by, and I think it's really important to have our definitions set.
Okay, I'm happy to find the terms.
Right. So we've had our disagreement on this. So so
you and I have, yes.
Yeah, and this is basically, so there's two like accepted definitions. One is the older one, and one is the newer one, and then you have all the rest of the ones that the idiots have created,
which we won't even delve into.
Right. So the original one was the negative or positive connotation of a person based on race. So you didn't necessarily have to act a certain way towards someone, just as even if you had that thought in your head. If you saw a person and you said, that person probably has this characteristic because of their race, that was racism. The more, the modern one, the one that I think we got in the disagreement over, which is the one that you believe is the correct one, would be the one that...
Yeah, our Monday morning discussions are pretty intense.
Yeah, no kidding. We talk every morning on Monday, if anyone cared to know.
Now they know.
Yeah, but then the other one has to do with behavior. And so it doesn't really matter what you think. It's like, okay, you can have the most egregious thoughts about Black people in your head, but if you treat them the exact same way, then you're not a racist person. Well, maybe I'm bastardizing the definition a bit, because I don't believe it's accurate. But I mean, essentially, this is like, if you act badly towards people because of their race, then that's racism.
Of course.
So either of those can kind of apply. I tend to think that even if you don't alter your behavior around them, it's really no one's business what goes on in your head. But
no,
if you hold negative opinions about people because of their race, I would say that qualifies you as a racist. That would be my definition.
Okay, so should we avoid these people? Because I mean, everyone has someone in their life that no one individual exists that agrees on absolutely everything. So we're supposed to like abandon anyone and everyone. Like, my father has some views that people wouldn't like to hear, which I will not state out loud. Maybe your grandmother has some views. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so moronic. Sorry, that's a different thing I'm asking you to unpack. Sorry, finish the first thing about racism, and then we'll get into what I just said then.
So we could get into this one because it's a little bit simpler to discuss.
Go ahead.
One touched on, which is, should we avoid these people? Well, we can't.
Yeah.
Avoid all racists, because we don't know what's happening in people's head.
Yeah.
Like, for all you know, like, people that you have all the respect for, who would never express themselves a certain way because they don't want to be perceived as being something, have some ideas in their head that maybe you think are really, really messed up. Now, I don't really care what goes on in their head. I really don't. Like, if I knew what went on in their head and I could classify that as racist, then yeah, I would say that they're racist people. But
would you avoid them? Would you have nothing to do with them?
I mean, if I could read their thoughts, I probably wouldn't want to have to do with a lot of people. I mean,
yeah, that's my point. We have to get past this ideological possession.
No. I mean, I think there's a difference between what goes on in your mind and what you do. So your thoughts have no morality to them. Thoughts don't have morality. Think whatever you want. You can have the most egregious thoughts in the world. You can have the most violent shit happening in your mind. And if that never translates into behavior, then you are not inherently an immoral person. You're only your
Okay, so if I have a thought and my thought is that I want to, I don't know, grab a gun and shoot pit bulls in the head because I hate pit bulls or something. I don't want to do that. That's just a random example. And someone's like, oh, she's a pit bull hater and they want to stay away from me. Like, that just doesn't make sense. There are people out there who have a negative view on homosexuality, racism, you know, but that doesn't mean that they're going to go up to that person and be nasty to them on an individual level. You can have an opinion, something on a general and generalize and think that way of the group at large. It's called collectivism. But that doesn't mean that on an individual level you would be nasty to that person. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's kind of like, okay, like if you have thoughts in your head that you would really like to kill pit bulls for some reason, and as long as you don't kill pit bulls or you don't advocate for it, or maybe you don't make us uncomfortable by, you know, just talking all the time about how you really want to shoot a pit bull in the face, then no, I don't really give a shit. But it's very different to have those opinions that if you're not acting on them, then no, I don't.
So what if someone writes it as a Twitter post or as a Facebook status, but still on an individual level treats the individual that they're spoken about like with respect?
I mean, words matter. I think it depends on how egregious something is. I mean, it depends. There are certain things that are misconstrued as racist. So
if I write a post and I say something that I think transgenderism is, which I've done. I've interviewed a former transgendered woman, a very well known one, and he said, "Well, hey, I used to identify as Laura," and I wrote something to the effect of, you know, transgenderism is a mental illness, and you know, I was called a transphobe for writing that, despite the fact that I had evidence to back up my claims. And I wouldn't treat a transgendered individual horribly at large. I met Hannah Mounsey at the car park at my local supermarket, and I took a photo with her, and I was lovely with her, and she was lovely with me. Despite my opinion on transgenderism as a subject at large, on an individual level, I'm always going to be kind to people because I believe in love thy neighbor. I believe in being kind to people. So how does my I guess negative opinion on something, how does that warrant other people to be so nasty to someone for having an independent thought? Do you know what I mean? It's not like I'm acting on it.
I think we're describing different things, because what you're saying, that wasn't a particularly hateful tweet. I would say it was
hateful. Say it was hateful. And then, but I still treated them kindly.
Then let's talk in actual terms. Let's say that you say black people aren't human beings; they're machines sent by Jesus Christ, you know, for our use. If he doesn't, and then like you have black friends, and maybe you're really nice to black people. Like, I would say, you know what, that's a pretty messed up thing for you to have said. Now, I'd have to take into consideration whether you were joking, or what the rest of the things that you've said in your life have been, how you feel about the tweet once you sent it out, like how you felt about it after the fact. So it would be, you know, a kind of a multivariate thing. But my point is, yes, if someone is just like taking to Twitter every single day and tweeting some really egregious things about black people.
Okay, so there are degrees here. If it's consistent and if it's every day.
Not so much about degree, it's about type. Because what you're saying about transgenderism, there's good evidence to point to the fact that transgenderism is a disorder. Now, we can have debates about how severe that disorder is or tends to be, or if there can be people who are both transgender and mentally healthy and are able to lead healthy lives or whatever. And there's a lot of things to say. But then for me to turn around and say, also, I hate transgender people, well, that's where you get into some bad territory. One thing
and
is
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, there's one thing that's like uncomfortable realities that are kind of taboo in society that, you know, I think is best to be tactful when touching.
Yeah.
But another thing is being hateful. And so I think it's a really good distinction of the two.
Sure.
And one of the issues that the anti-racist movement has one of the mistakes they've made is to equate the two, because I think what they were trying to do is by equating the two, just having less tolerance for racism overall. But what they've actually done is they've watered down everything. So now people can actually get away with saying some racist things because all the people who hate the anti-racist advocates, which most people do because they're just bad people, people with very stupid opinions, they don't listen to them anymore. So they might actually say, hey, that thing that this person said was actually racist. Well, no one listens to them anymore. And it could have actually been racist. And it may have been appropriate to give them all the condemnation, but you don't want to anymore because you don't want to give them anything. So in that sense, racism it could actually be doing better.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, well, I suppose the reason I wanted to raise the race issue was simply because we are kind of outsiders to it. We're not necessarily deemed white. We're not necessarily deemed black. I don't know what our category is. So I thought it'd be interesting. Sorry?
Ambiguous.
Ambiguous. That's true.
But I'm from the Middle East a lot here because, you know, there's no
people think I get a lot that I'm Jewish. I get a lot that I'm Greek. I get a lot that I'm Persian as well. So I've had it all. It's all right. It doesn't bother me.
For me, it's just people, Aussies notice that I'm Mexican, you know. Your pop culture is very American, so you have all the Mexican jokes under your wing. And so the second you meet me, it's like, oh man, I have so much material. Just sit down right there. I really have to do some wall jokes on you.
Well, even Neil Erickson, the way like he called us WET backs. So
the wetbacks is not like the N-word. Like you can say wetbacks.
No, but the thing is, I don't know how YouTube constitutes words. So I didn't say it in case like it was going to be demonetized, but then you said it. That's okay. Most of them are demonetized. It's fine.
Yeah. Stop touching such fucked up subjects. No.
Yeah. Well, that's what I do. I like to talk about the things no one else will talk about. Well, just before we go, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about spirituality because you are an advocate for meditation, and I myself don't do that. I know that on one of our Monday conversations, I did say that I was going to do it and that I was going to download an app that helped. I didn't end up doing it. I forgot to. But what I do in the morning, so where you set aside time to meditate and do what you need to do, what I do is I get ready for work, I do what I do, and then as I'm driving, anyone who ever drives near me will probably see that I'm talking to myself. But what I'm actually doing is I'm talking to God. I'm praying. I'm saying, dear God, thank you that I'm alive today. Thank you for my family. Thank you. It's sort of a gratitude prayer, and then I sort of ask Him to help me, you know, to have strength to do what I need to do. Is meditation similar to that, or is it a completely different type of thing? I don't know. So my English is really bad right now. Is it a different thing?
So I should make clear. So yes, I do meditate every day, twice. I think that more people should do it, but I'm not a teacher, and I wouldn't even necessarily call myself an advocate. I don't push hard on the fact that people should meditate. It's something that works for me personally very well. So I just really want to make sure that that's established.
Oh yeah, don't worry. I'm not encouraging everyone in my live chat to now start meditating or become Christians. I wouldn't do that.
I think it's good for your brain. I wouldn't.
For sure, I think prayer is good. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's kind of a difference between what you do and what meditation is. So a lot of people compare meditation to prayer, and yes, certain types of prayer can be very meditative. The point when you would get on your knees and just like absolutely, you know, say like a prayer. I don't. What would you call it? Like one of the type of prayer that is just like preset in the Bible, Our Father, for example. And then
I don't do those prayers. I pray with my own mind. I don't sort of do the preset stuff. But yeah, fair enough. Keep going.
So like the people that would get down on their knees say that and then just kind of like close their eyes and just really concentrate and try to connect with something above them and just really connect. And so you get to a deeper state of consciousness, and yes, that is meditation, which is perfectly fine. Now, with the difference of what you do, it seems that you're just having a conversation with God.
Not necessarily just a conversation. I'm asking him for help, and I'm trying to better myself, and I'm letting him know all the bad things that I've thought. I'm letting him know all the bad things that I've done. It's, asking for forgiveness, because I'm not Catholic. I'm not Catholic, so I don't go to a priest and do the whole forgive me, Father, I've sinned. I go straight to God and do that.
Okay. So I would only say, so let me explain what meditation is really quick. And especially a lot of people really, especially on the right, because they associate it so much to the crunchy granola, like SJW.
Or yoga. This is why I want you to explain it like as like the way you do.
So it's really different. So it really is nothing political. It's not even necessarily a spiritual thing. Okay. I would compare it to the fact that a lot of people really like to go on long walks. A lot of people like to go fishing, for example, and just kind of like be on their own and not have anyone around, just kind of be alone with their thoughts. It is. I think there is a really good case to be made for the fact that people really sometimes just need to sit alone with their thoughts and get things in order. A lot of things happen to us throughout the day. We have a lot of experiences, a lot of thoughts, and a lot of everything. And because of the way we live, it's one thing after the other. We don't necessarily have the opportunity to take all of these thoughts and put them in order and make sense of them. And so what you're doing when you're engaging in meditation, it's not a spiritual thing necessarily. If you're a spiritual person, you can bring in elements of spirituality. That's another thing. It's more of an exercise in just getting your mind straight. So if you sit down, you have 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon to really just sit down and close your eyes and not focus on anything else but what's inside your mind. It's a really fantastic opportunity for you to get all of these things in line, all these things in order. There might have been something that happened to you that, kind of, you didn't feel great about, but, the day was hectic or busy or whatever, and you just let it fly by. But it's something you need to deal with. And if you sit down and there's nothing around you to distract you, there's nothing else that you're doing in the moment, it's a really good way to deal with that. And there's a bevy of other reasons for that. And in fact, some of the more successful CEOs do this too, because they believe their efficiency. They think, if I don't have all this clutter in my mind, if I can think more clearly, if my mind isn't preoccupied with trying to deal with something that happened some time back and I'm trying to focus here on the spreadsheet, well, then I'm going to be able to focus on the spreadsheet a lot. I'm not going to be able to focus on the spreadsheet as much. If I already had all this in order, then I think I'm going to be able to be more efficient. And so that's the only thing that I would say, because I think there is a PR issue, and it's largely due to the fact that people use meditation and yoga to stand on a soapbox and pretend that they're better than everyone else. It's actually just
I don't think anyone would think that of you. You're very humble.
Stop. Really, meditation. Come on. No, but it's like taking a morning run. It's like taking a morning run. It's like doing exercise. It's like brushing your teeth. It's just something you do regularly. It might not be the most entertaining thing or the most glorious thing. It's just something that you do for your own well-being in the future. So that's why do it. You can do it with YouTube videos. You can do it on your own. You can go to centers. There's centers in Australia that you can go, and someone will guide you through a meditation, and then you just give a donation. So, you can meditate for $80 a session or for 80 cents a session if you want.
There you go.
Yeah. So, I would encourage people to try it and to try to see what their experience is from it.
I'd certainly try it for sure. Well, there we go. I think we've reached our time limit, and thank you very much for jumping on and talking.
The white supremacy sign. I can't believe I did that. I was just going okay, but
What's white supremacy? That is not white supremacy. Someone did that on purpose to troll lefties.
I know it's a 4chan thing.
But leftists still think it means that. They're so stupid. It's okay to be white. A-okay. Okay, is that so?
That's why everyone does it. I also stop trolling people so much.
Oh, I do it on purpose now. I do it on purpose just to annoy them because they react so much. They're so fun to troll. They're so stupid, even though I love them.
I know it's fun, but what favors are you doing? What favors are you doing yourself or anyone else? Just
they've already tried, and I'm still a happy girl. I don't know what more they can do to. Okay, let's invent something else that's apparently racist. Let's pretend that this means I hate I don't know. I don't know. I'm just making like this means something. We'll figure it out.
You're such a good Christian girl. You don't see the inherent issue with going there. Like, what could this mean? I'm wondering. Like,
that didn't even come into my mind. My God, I'm so dumb.
I know. I have an idea. We can go like this.
I'm so innocent.
Yeah. All right.
I have an idea. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Emilio.
All right.
Everyone. Sorry?
No, it was wonderful being here.
Oh, no, I love having you on, and I'll probably talk to you on Monday morning like we always do. But between now and then, everyone, please check out his website, The Radical Center. It's in the description box below. And my guest for next week at this point is undetermined, but I'm hoping he'll come on. And my guest after that will be Ben Davies of Cauldron Pool, where we will be answering Bible questions, frequently asked Bible questions.
He's a contributor to the Radical Center, by the way.
I know. I love Ben Davies. He's a buddy of ours. Yeah, I love how we share a lot of the same old media friends.
We do. That's true.
It's good. It's good stuff. Community sticks together. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.